Hello everyone, welcome to the second series of Adform Nordic Bootcamp webinars. My name is Juuli Pelkonen and I'm the account director here at Adform Finland and I'm your host for today. Today we will be talking about game-changing carbon reduction and how to drive sustainable advertising with my lovely colleague Anna Wendlinger. Anna will also share some interesting insights on a case they did with Vodafone. So welcome Anna, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So today I will be telling you about an option to reduce carbon emissions from your campaigns and therefore become more sustainable. But before we start on this, let's dive into the topic of why, when we talk about digital advertising, we even have to talk about becoming more sustainable. Because it's not like we are talking about print, right? We are not cutting down trees to get the paper to make the print advertising work. No, we are already digital, virtual. So how is it that we need to reduce carbon emissions? How is it that we do have a carbon footprint? Now, before we dive into this in a detail, let me tell you something. According to a study from 2021, about 75% of participating Gen Zs said that sustainability is a lot more important to them than a product brand's name. And we as an industry have heard them, and around 70% of participating digital advertising businesses have said that they've already started or at least looked into ways to reduce their carbon emissions. But still, sustainability is one of the major challenges that we as an industry in digital advertising are still facing. Now, getting back to my previous question from the beginning. How are our digital campaigns impacting our environment? And the answer to this is a specific number that differs from country to country. For Norway, that specific number is 296. 296 grams of carbon dioxide per 1,000 impressions are emitted on average in Norway within a month when running digital advertising campaigns. This number is the industry average and is provided by Scope 3. Now let me say this number again. It's 296 grams of carbon dioxide per 1,000 impressions. Now think about this. How many impressions does your campaign deliver within a month? And then how many campaigns do you run within 4 weeks? And now multiply this and let the number roll in your head, and actually the total amount of grams of carbon dioxide gets pretty high. So we really do have a carbon footprint. Now, where does it come from exactly? Most of it comes from a process that we call ad selection. And we'll dive into this a little bit more later on in this webinar. But stating the fact, we do have a carbon footprint, we do emit carbon emissions, CO2. Now that we know that, how can we change it? What can we do to reduce the carbon emissions that we have when running campaigns? And how can we, as the digital marketing industry, become more sustainable? And there's an answer to this that we're here for today to give you. It's a one-click answer that is pretty easy, and it is about a feature within the Adform DSP that is causing carbon reduction. Now, how does that work? You just take one click within the Adform DSP and you activate the carbon reduction feature. And then what does it do? It acts like you would imagine a brand safety filter to work. So Scope 3 is analyzing all domains there are according to their carbon emissions measured in grams of carbon dioxide. And then they have this massive amount of data that is pushed into the Adform DSP in real time. So now we also know the grams of carbon dioxide for every domain there is. And then we can go ahead and automatically in the background in real time rank these domains according to their emissions, so according to their grams of carbon dioxide per 1,000 impressions, and then block the highest emitting domains from your campaigns, like a brand safety filter, just for sustainability. So we can basically call it a sustainability protection filter. And now your campaign in the background is automatically optimized towards less carbon reduction, so you become automatically more sustainable, right? So let's imagine we'll get like a bid request and the bid request is on a domain that has a very, very high emissions that's been ranked. And then the feature tells you before starting to bid on it that it has high emissions and we're blocking it. We'll rather take a domain that is more sustainable. So that is how the feature works. And it's just one click for you, and then you can just lay back and not do anything anymore, but have a campaign that is more sustainable. Sounds pretty amazing in theory, right? But how does that work in real life? There are probably many questions that you have right now. And I'm now happy to show you a video of a stage presence that Adform we did with Vodafone, who tested the feature for you and is probably going to answer most of your questions. So please enjoy the Vodafone case.
All right, I'm very happy to be on stage with Marian from Simon Mobile, who's just recently tested the campaign for the feature for one of his campaigns. So thank you for being here and welcome. My first question to you is, why in the first place have you decided to test the feature for your campaign?
Yeah, so thank you, Anna, for having me here. So before answering that question, I would briefly explain how we usually see performance marketing. So when we are talking about performance marketing, we always focus on one main goal, which is efficiency. Efficiency in terms of cost reduction or in terms of performance. And this is quite important for us as well, but we shouldn't only think about efficiency in terms of these two, but we should also think about quality. Quality in terms of how and where our ad is displayed. So usually in terms of efficiency, we just focus on cost reduction. We want to buy our inventory at the lowest CPC, reach the lowest eCPA, and in terms of performance, we are seeking high conversion rates and high click-through rates, which is quite important. But we think as a brand not only about these performance goals, but also about quality. So for us, it is crucial where and in what context our ads appear, because this has a direct impact on how our brand is perceived by the audience. So we think even more about quality, and that's why we implemented, for instance, settings like brand safety and brand suitability, which are important for our brand as well as it has been perceived by the audience. But this is not enough for us. As you have mentioned before, carbon reduction and sustainability is such an important topic for our industry. We are producing so much CO2 emissions, and we as a brand try to decrease these emissions. And this is where actually Scope 3 comes in. So it allows us to reduce our CO2 emissions by blocking domains within high CO2 emissions. So this was the first question we asked ourselves: could it be an addition to our actually performance and to our brand safety and brand suitability settings? And that's why we tested Scope 3 in the first place for us, just to see what would be the impact. Would it even be beneficial for us?
Thank you. And can you tell us a little bit more about the campaign setup of the test?
Yeah, sure. So actually the setup was quite basic. Just to reduce the impact of any external influence, like, for instance, targeting segment, third-party data, or any channel list, we decided for a basic setup. We created two different campaigns. One was using Scope 3 as a carbon reduction and carbon measurement, and the other one was just using Scope 3 as a carbon measurement. So we had two basic campaigns with just two line items, same setting, no manual optimization, because we wanted to see what would be the direct impact of Scope 3. So that's why we decided not to use any third-party data, or which could have been an influence on conversion rates or on CTRs. So we set up the campaign and let everything untouched, which was really important for us, that we don't have any manual or external influence on the campaign, and we just let the algorithm run for the whole campaign and just had it run like Scope 3 is doing the work for us.
And now the probably most burning question is, what about the results? What about your KPIs, the delivery? Did it really perform?
Well, to be honest, it was in a good way quite impressive and surprisingly for us, because in terms of our eCPA, we reduced it by 75% compared to the control group, and we increased our amount of conversions by 300%. And On top of that, we also reduced our carbon emissions by 518 kilograms, which is 50% less than we have in the control group and 38% less than on the average in Germany. So this shows us that it is possible not only to reduce carbon emissions, but also to enhance our performance while still being cost efficient. So for us, it actually was a win-win-win situation. We decreased the eCPA, we increased our conversions, and we reduced our carbon emissions. So it was really satisfied for us.
That's great to hear. So let me get at this again. 518 kilograms of carbon dioxide were saved within just a couple of weeks by running a test. Now that's just a number to probably all of us, but let me translate this to you into something more tangible. It's actually the same as going 8 times from Munich to Hamburg and back. It's 8 round trips for this distance. Or it is 34,000 times charging your smartphone. So that's actually quite a lot of impact that you can achieve by just running a campaign with a simple setup, activating the Scope 3 carbon reduction feature, and having it run for a couple of weeks. Now think about what you could be doing with it if you run it for, like, let's say, a year or so. So that brings me to my next question, actually. What's next for you?
Yeah, so as mentioned before, we were quite satisfied with the results of the test, and that's why we implemented Scope 3 in all of our campaigns. So we're using it in all funnels, no matter if it's brand, prospecting, or performance campaigns. We're using it for all of our different strategies. Of course, there are still some strategies where it doesn't make sense. For instance, if we are using a one domain deal, it doesn't make sense just to exclude domains with a higher dimension. But this is just a small amount of our small part of our actually setup. So we're using it and we're testing it with different algorithms, with different strategies, and with different optimization. Again, as I said, during this test, we didn't do any manual optimization. Now we are testing what could be the best result. Could we even reduce more CO2 emissions, and could we even increase the performance, even though it was really good in the test?
Thank you. Very much looking forward to further tests and working with you. And
so what's next for Vodafone is to keep using the carbon reduction feature in order to stay more sustainable. Now, my question to all of you is, what's next for you? And to give you a more detailed impression of each country's numbers and what you can do here, I would welcome Julie back to the stage to give you a little bit more insights.
Thank you, Anna. So let's take a deep dive into the average carbon emissions in the Nordics. As Anna shared previously, these are the industry averages we can see from Scope 3. So for example, for Norway, as mentioned, it's 296 grams of CO2 per 1,000 impressions. And the averages are quite similar in each market. But when we dig a bit deeper into the numbers, what we can see within Adform, that only by using our platform, we can see the averages going down a lot. In Norway, up to 80%. And this is because we have quite a direct access to the major publishers in each country, meaning that they either use our Adform SSP to have end-to-end connection to the buy side, or they only use a handful of SSPs, which makes their supply path very clean. So the Nordic publishers you can access through our platform have a lot less intermediaries compared to our global averages. And if we take a step even further with the Adform carbon reduction, we have the chance to lower the emissions even more. So here we have a case from a client in Finland where we could optimize the emissions to be as low as 53 grams of CO2 per 1,000 impressions. So the learning here is that we have a lot of control over our emissions, and with simple changes, you can really have a big impact. So that was our session for today. But before I let you all go, I have just a few questions to you, Anna. So can you tell us, what is the price of the Adform carbon reduction feature?
Yes, for the carbon reduction feature, we take a CPM, and that is 10 cents. So very small price to pay to be more sustainable.
Right. So I guess some advertisers might be concerned of the delivery of their campaigns. So can they still deliver their full campaigns, or is it too much inventory being cut away with the feature?
That's a very good question, and we indeed do get this question a lot. So far, and Scope 3, I think we've partnered with them for more than a year by now. I think even 2 years soon. We have not once had any delivery issues. So yes, I know where the concern is coming from, but think about like which domains are usually being blocked. Those are like those domains that have a lot of things going on, right? Because of all the servers that are working behind it. So these are the ones being blocked, but many of our clients prefer more quality domains anyways. So far we have not seen any delivery issues.
Okay, amazing. So what about the different channels? Does this feature only work for display campaigns?
Also good question. So display, definitely. Video, currently only outstream video. So this means for display and outstream video, yes, it works perfectly fine. For in-stream video, CTV, audio, digital out of home, and other channels, that's a work in progress, but will soon also be available.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for all the insights. So what's next? We still have 2 super interesting bootcamps coming up. One on the revolution in CTV advertising and another session on the cookie roller coaster. So be sure to register and join us. And thank you so much for joining. See you next week.